Now in the following tutorials I talk about the Surface Inspector and I use it briefly, and I wanted to quickly discuss what it is and how you can use it. To bring up the Surface Inspector, you select a brush and then you press S as in Sam. And at the top of the window you'll see the path and file name of the particular texture that is on the selected object. It will allow you to shift according to a single tile of the texture. So in other words, to shift half the width of this particular texture, you can see how the texture is moving one half each time I click. You can also change that to whatever value suits you best. You can also shift textures vertically. And probably one of the most useful components of this surface editor would be the ability to fit. And the fit basically allows you to set the number of times you want a particular texture repeated along a brush. So if I choose, say, 2 and 2, we should expect that this particular texture will be tiled twice in horizontally and twice vertically. So if I click fit, we can see that indeed we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 2 here and 2 here. And you also have the ability to go back to the natural state of the texture. In other words, what would be the state of the texture when you first applied it to the brush, so without any fitting or scaling or shifting. Now if you open any of ID's maps in the editor, you'll notice that they arrange their outer shell walls in a slightly different manner than what I've shown you here. Now the way that ID creates their outer walls is like so. We'll go ahead and create a box and we'll hollow it out. Okay, now instead of leaving these brushes overlapping, they actually move all of the brushes so that they're just barely touching in all dimensions. So let me quickly show you an example here. There, now as you can see, in all the 4 corners, at every single point where the brushes meet, they are just barely touching. So for example, if I select everything, you can see that there is no overlap, but yet, if I zoom in here, all of the brushes are meeting up right here at this point. And the same for all the corners. All the brushes in this corner are meeting up right here at this point. There are some advantages to building the outer shell of your map the way that it does, and those benefits come into play especially when you need to texture the exterior walls. Now I'm currently in this lower room here, and the thing I want to focus on is texture alignment. So if you see here in the corner, we definitely have some problems with texture alignment. So to try and fix those, I'm going to select these brushes and attempt to fit them. And we can see that, while we can see that this edge correctly shows us the end of the texture, if we take a look at this wall here, we can see that it actually expands another 8 units past the visible corner of the room, which means that we don't get to see the edge of that texture. That can be problematic. And while this particular issue can be resolved with some texture nudging and other fine-tuning in the surface editor, it really can be sort of a painstaking process to go around and fix, if you can imagine, every single exterior wall if you set up your map this way. So it's a lot better to use ID's method, which I'll explain now. Now, if I move over to the other room, you can see that they're pretty much identical, except that in this case, we can see that the decals meet up properly. And so if we examine this brush, you'll notice that we don't have this problem where we don't get to see the edge of the texture, because the brush actually stops right at the visible corner of the room. So this can really save you a lot of time when you're going around and texturing the exterior walls of your map.